Hi, dog. How you doing? How's the week?
Good. Just got off of our I think it's like the fourth or fifth call we've had with Engage.
How do you feel about it?
I'm pumped, dude. I'm pumped. I really like it. Yeah, I mean, for what we're doing, it needs to be replicatable, duplicatable, simple. It's a lot to build out. But I think if you start with small and simple first, and you add to it as you need, you really have a good system to show homeowners a process, to help them make good decisions, and also a structure to guide in-home while the representative's there. It's also a good grading system for us to be able to say what's working, what's not. It's like you didn't even show them financing. You never clicked on that page, right?
That is true. It's a good scalable accountability tool as well for in-home salespeople.
Yeah, accountability, man.
What's the biggest thing you like about it? Is it the reporting? Is it the sales adherence to the process, or all of the above?
I mean, reporting's cool, adherence is cool, but I think it's the simplicity of a roadmap, a visual. A lot of people are visual learners. A lot of homeowners tell us that, hey, we're really visual people. Can you show us what you're talking about? Yeah, absolutely. Because we're already using Company Cam. We're walking them through photos of past projects, jobs. We're talking about before and after photos on those jobs. We're talking about what investment costs were on those projects to give them examples to get the creative juices flowing. We're using external data and resources like cost versus value, like the JLC, like the Harvard Business Reports, to talk about how they can come up with pricing and numbers to consider. There's all kinds of ways to link internally and externally with the program, where instead of having 70 different tabs on your iPad open up to flip through it and make it look like garbage, it's all in one platform, and it's all navigable really easily by building it and putting parameters and things in there that you want shown, so that you now know what's being shown. There's no question. Did you talk to them about how we do stamped concrete? Yeah, but I couldn't find a picture of like a good example of one. Well, let's make that really simple. Here's the pictures of the jobs that we've done. That's, and these are the ones that are getting us really good results. Here's the colors. Here's the examples. This is the cost per square foot. Boom. Simplify it.
Okay. Do you feel so? One of the topics on our outline, right? The why homeowners lie, and so do contractors. Look at the accountability side of that. Is there's been so many times, even not to my face, but I always find this when someone gets caught a lie, it's an adjacent person that they're telling their lie to, trying to get one over on someone or whatever it may be. I feel like this, like an Engage platform of a homeowner saying, no, your rep never gave me any options for financing. You get to hop back in, catch them in that lie, Do you feel like that's an aspect of why you want something like this to hold everyone accountable, or maybe have some red flags pop off and maybe walk away from a job if need be because a bad client fit? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Buyers are liars.
Yes.
So when you started this with your comment of kind of how do you identify a bad client, I think is what you said. How'd you word that?
Somewhat like why homeowners lie and
why homeowners
contractors,
lie.
And then this being a tool that can expose some of those things.
Yeah, exposing liars. That's what we do, actually. I don't think that it's we were talking about this the other day, actually. It's like the Facebook marketplace where you post something out there and it has the automated message of, is this still available? And then you respond, and then that person's like gone to the abyss. Where did they go? Yeah. It's also the same with us. So I'll give you an example, right? Someone hits the website for a quote over the weekend. We respond back to them, letting them know that we'll be in touch. We try to follow up with them. They don't answer. they're not prepared for a phone call. They're not prepared for a full-on conversation. They're prepared for the easy button. That's why they hit the quote request form. And the easy button is, I thought you were going to be able to just book my appointment from here. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm sitting on my couch in my underwear. I really don't want to have a full-blown conversation about my deck right now. I just was curious. What's it cost? Right? There's that client. There's also then the educated client who's already been on like everyone's websites, may have even had quotes and people come out. So it's like they're not necessarily lying to us. They just don't know what they don't know. And what I would say about having Engage, and Engage is cool for the in-home presentation. Engage is cool for the appointment confirmation. Engage is actually, I just realized, a really cool program to be able to tie yourself into a business card. You could build a business card with Engage and have it create a jot form that gets web hooked through Zapier into your CRM. So there's a lot of resources there, I think. But at the end of the day, like, what problem are we trying to solve, right? And is it the right problem to solve and the wrong solution, or is it the right problem to solve the right solution, or where do we fall with this? And for us, the problem we're trying to solve is continuing straight line selling throughout every engagement to get them to a yes or a no, to reduce a bunch of confusion, to help them decide if we're a good fit or not for one another. And all of that combined, if we know that the target is you want a deck and we're the guys to make it happen, how do we come together and get you to the end goal? And by using roadmap and helping them navigate with us through all of the hallways that you could go down, because a handyman, I can most certainly tell you, is going to walk you down a much shorter hallway that will lead to one or two doors that may or may not need to be opened. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's the high-end contractor who builds everything. He's a Me Too contractor, right? We do that too. Me too. That guy could take you down a hallway where there's hundreds of doorways and confuse the crap out of you. So by creating this like visual representation of where we're going with our meeting, what we're planning to be able to provide them, it simplifies a lot of it too. And it shows them, like, you could even put in there, hey, look, here's some horror stories in this particular scenario where a client did do a completely different approach, and this is what it resulted in. And I can share with you examples. And I could even pin it to Google reviews that were provided by the company that did it. You know what I mean? So there's never, I think what's tough when we go into the home and give people this much information is like, it's so much they're never going to retain even a third of it. But if it's coming from a presentation and less from an actual consultant, letting the homeowner make their own decisions with the information that's provided in front of them, it's a better decision. I'd say less than 50% of our clients will listen to what we say and truly value it like we want them to. But when they see it in presentation format, it's definitely received a little differently, I think.
I would agree. So we use basically we built out in Canva, and then I believe I have a Gamma slide, I have a Prezi slide. It's not but like it gets the point across, right? Like it's basically our proven process in slides. Yeah. Cost reports of previous projects that are just like yours, the proposal, the production schedule of those, the daily reporting, like what you can expect, in construction, all that good stuff. And I really like it as a standalone salesperson for myself because I know I'm following the process that I wrote and created this deck for, But I do see like at scale, because like for me, I'm probably only going to have 2 salespeople max per location. And so it gets pretty simple to really dial down on like who's doing their job, who isn't. But for a product like a deck, I would say is more like it's a service, but it's sold as a product, which is like the pinnacle of home service sales. Is if you can productize your service, you're winning. It takes the friction away of the purchasing decision where, we already hashed out that, we're doing it hard mode over here and it's stupid and that's why you left. to go do decks because it's smarter. It's smarter, not harder in some ways. But no, I think I just couldn't stomach the price on it. When I looked at the price point for how small our sales and design team is, I was like, man, I don't feel it's going to bring the return on investment when we can build out a very similar thing and maybe not have as many bells and whistles with our own marketing team. Yeah. That was what I came up with. But they definitely do have a great product.
And all of the detail that they've built, the creative team behind it all is what makes the secret sauce. You don't know, like, I'm only so good with PowerPoint. I could certainly take PowerPoint and build out a very cool presentation. I've done plenty of corporate presentations with Fortune 100 companies about their logistics, and watched the presentation team that was full of MIT grads build out cool visuals. But at the end of the day, it's like the PowerPoint has some navigable changes and like movements that don't work well when you're in home, especially like linking to other sites and software and so forth. So like we can link it back into specific projects we want to highlight with the homeowner. We can link it back into company cam for before and after photos. There's a lot that's just simpler layout by doing it that way. So, I'm kind of excited.
Let's go back. Why? So we both agreed unanimously that buyers are liars. Why do you think that is?
Buyers liars?
Yeah. Like what makes you feel that way?
Well,
I don't feel that way. I believe that. Genuinely,
we have to make the assumption that people don't know what they want. They have no idea. That's why they're calling. They don't know what it costs. They don't know what the best material is. They don't even know what it takes to make it all come together. They're not really even sure about the permitting. They don't know what their HOA is going to say about it. Because if they knew, guess what? Would they really be calling us?
Maybe not.
I mean, as a general contractor, before I had my license, I wasn't calling other contractors. I was Googling and YouTubing and going to my building like resource centers and asking good questions to try and figure it out on my own, because I didn't value my time. It's basically what it came down to. Now I value my time.
That's what I was gonna say. It comes down to time, money, quality. And if a homeowner has the knowledge to control the costs and the quality, are they willing to sacrifice their time to do so?
Right.
Yeah.
I've been in some extremely elaborate multi-million dollar homes that the homeowner literally played general contractor on, because and these are young people that are like self-employed that have all the freedom and time in the world. But it was shocking to me to see that they stood up, these very successful exits with multi-million dollar businesses, but yet they still valued their time as a $150 an hour role, general contracting their own home renovations. I'm just like, what do you not think that another general contractor could do what you want them to do? Is it you don't have the time to be able to display what you want to them? Is it you
control,
don't trust control?
Yeah.
It's a lot of that, control. Right? Control, trust. As an entrepreneur, man, when it comes down to the details, like I'm like, I've thought a lot about the next 5 years here for me. I've thought a lot about my personal real estate. I've thought about my personal assets. I thought about things that I want to acquire that I feel like will bring me more peace and joy in life. And the more I think about a lot of them, I'm just like, yeah, but I don't trust anybody to do it the way I want it. And then I'm not even really sure that's what I want. Like, do I want a Prevost motor coach or do I want a Newell? Why do I want a motor coach when I can just fly private and land at hotels and stay in 5-star resorts and then not have to worry about things? Because at the motor coach, I'm on the side of the road. Newell has a 24-hour lifetime warranty hotline you can call. Prevost does not. And I don't really want to be messing with the blown
For a
wheel.
fact.
Yeah, it's only a $3 million difference in cost. You see what I'm saying? So it's like valuing time, I think, is part of it. Like, and so why do we all have this general consensus that buyers are liars? Well, it's the preconceived notion that we have to believe that they are. Not all are. We have to go into the conversation with the intention to try and help them see why our partnership makes sense, why we will bring value to them. And if for the right client that's willing to be educated, it's great. For the homeowner that's like, look, buddy, you're a commodity. I called 7 others just like you, and they didn't tell me any of this crap. So why should I listen to your crap?
Yeah.
Well,
I view it, the buyers are liars through ignorance and omissions. So a lot of times it's not a blatant lie, right? It's not, I'm not going to say this because that's going to increase the price. I'm just going to wait till air construction and then demand that they do it and say that it was a part of the contract the whole time. That has happened to us. Ask me how I know about that one. But oftentimes, like you said, they don't know what they want. They don't know what they need. They don't know the steps of construction. They don't know all the things that go into the procurement and what type of product it is and how to install that product and all the X's and O's that go along with the product. So it's just an ignorance, right? And in my sales training, I train skepticism, right? Like every statement by this homeowner, they have their intended meaning of how they thought about it in their head, and then they have what they actually said to you. And then you have the conversation in your head of what they actually said and what you internalize it as, and then what you say back to them. So, I train to actually like take their words, repeat it back to them, and make sure we're talking common ground of like, right. This is what you said. This is how I interpret it. Do we both agree explicitly that this is what's happening? And record every freaking conversation, because that saved our ass so many times now that it's just it's a non-negotiable to record every conversation with the client in our company. But I do feel like it's a lying by ignorance, really, which I guess you couldn't technically call lying, but to us it affects how we operate if we have bad information or if we have partial information, or especially clients that are, because we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, they have that control factor, and that's what's gotten them so far in a lot of ways. A lot of our guys are tech entrepreneurs, and they're in charge of their own little business unit, or they're entrepreneurs in charge of their business unit, and they want to control every piece and part of the construction process, but they don't know enough. But they'll be barking orders at our superintendent or our field staff in construction, not knowing the full picture, and completely throw a grenade in their schedule or their quality of work or communication internally, and it's just ugh. So we had to actually bolt on robust processes internally of reporting to make sure that daily our internal reports from our superintendents align with what was sold and what's coming up and what has happened. Just to get the story straight, because obviously I'm not on site every single day. Our ops manager isn't on site every day. The PMs aren't on site every day. It's the superintendent. And we took the approach. We were using Rilla once again for the price, and I'm still good friends with those guys over at Rilla. I really appreciate them. They helped us out in a lot of ways because they were starting out. We were one of their kind of guinea pigs in a way. They came over here from New York to California. They shot content at our studio and did testimonial videos and all that stuff. Always a Rilla fan. Big fan of theirs. But we stopped using Rilla due to team size. It didn't make sense. Once again, same thing with like Engage. If I was more in a home service, it would make more sense. But for what we're doing, the
problem you're trying to solve is clarity of scope and passing off the torch to the production staff to be aligned with clarity of scope.
Well, that's not so much an issue with our now, but we use Otter for in-home recording. So Otter is on everyone's job site iPads. They can record conversations right there. It's on my phone. When I'm in a meeting, I turn on my Otter. It records in the background. And so, yeah, that's what we use. And then we have internal team chats on every project where every conversation is posted, the link, so everyone can refer back to that conversation and get the action items from it. But yeah, Brillo is a great tool. I know you use Siro, SIRO.
Yeah. So like we have a power hour every morning from 7:30 to 8:30 with our sales team. And then we do a Tuesday in office sales meeting, and it's typically from 10 to noon. And I incorporate a few things in that meeting, right? So we're big on our sales training. We go through quite a bit of different layers of objection handling and role playing and things like that to be able to overcome some of the challenges that we've had prior weeks. So that's typically what we'll do in that 2-hour session. We do something externally as far as training. So last week we brought on one of our coaches to kind of talk through some of the artificial intelligence, the videos that we handle objections with. So we actually have a system where we'll talk to that AI, and it's kind of an unbiased tool to be able to help with objection handling, and it grades us. So we go through some of that. We did that last Tuesday. This Tuesday, this morning we had Ciro on to talk about some of the most recent updates that they've added and help us with some, training on getting a little more functional with Ciro. Because although yes, it'll just record your calls or your contact and the conversation you've had on site with your client during your initial visit, there's a ton that you can do after you've left. So leaving the home, win, lose, or fail, you still can take away from that a good bit of information. Like, for instance, one of the things that we're starting to do better now is we'll take that. We go into the portion of the system that gives us data sets, so we can see of the interactions that happened during the session, what was the word per minute rate? Did we talk too fast, too slow? How many questions were asked versus how many got answered? So if you're asking a lot of questions, you're not getting a lot of answers, then you're probably talking too much, right? There is.
What's your ratio that you shoot for?
Don't really have one yet. I mean, we're really kind of new to just collecting the data. If there's a huge red flag, obviously I'm going to ask the question like, "Hey, why are you getting all these questions out but no answers at all?"
So I know you're a big stoplight guy, green, yellow, red. I broke it down by 70-30 is the preferred. 70% client community, like talking to 30% us. 70-30 was like preferred. And then that's green. And then once you get down to like 60-40, 55-45, that's yellow. Anything 50-50 below was red.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this has a lot of insight. So like the words per minute pacing, typically top performers speak slower than 170 minutes words per minute. So in this case, like when the rep's getting close to 170, it's time to kind of look and see, is this a common situation on all of their on-site visits, or is this just this one-off situation where that person may have influenced them to talk faster than normal? Exchanges, of course, time listening. How much time is spent listening versus how much time was spent talking? How many words were spoken in the event? Like in this particular scenario, this was an event that the speaker shared 71% of the time. Right?
That's perfect. Sorry, the client or your rep?
The speaker, which in this case, it's identifying the speaker is the actual person sharing information. So it should be less than top performers target less than 60%. How much control?
Why do you think the words per minute? Do you feel that slower delivery, more succinct language, translates to more confidence and strength?
Yeah, it's
and
the
positioning?
late night DJ show. It's all about what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I think it starts to provide the homeowner the feeling that they're in the presence of someone who's a professional. I do this for a living. I don't need a lot of filler words. Look, I've done this 100 times before. You got to trust me here, ma'am. You called me out here to educate you. Do you want to talk or do you want me to talk? I don't know. There's a lot of things to take from it. This particular
But I always
meeting,
wished they had. I wish they had the active, as I interrupt you, ironically, I wish they had the active listening. So not so much the percentage of who's talking, but when you're listening, when the client's speaking, on your response to their question or to their statement, like, are you rephrasing what they said back to them? You know, because I think that's a big listening comprehension skill that not a lot of people have. Kind of how we talked about, there's a conversation in their head, there's a conversation that they're dictating, and then there's a conversation in your head and the conversation that you're repeating back to them. So like getting those four conversations on the same page.
That's where the
so
AI
like an active listening. Exactly. Yeah. That would be a cool metric.
So exact scenario. You and I just role played a completely good example for like what we're talking about, where we're on the same page. We're both talking over each other. We got it going fast. And now how do we take this and decipher, did the rep stay on course with what the homeowner wanted, or were they trying to skew them through all of that? You can ask that. You can ask this. It's Zero. In this case, is the AI. You're going to ask, hey, you know, how frequently did the homeowner or the rep speak over the other person to engage in the process, right? And it'll tell you. I guess let me ask this: how frequently? Let's see how quickly it responds. It's going to analyze all of the recording and the data. The transcript does not provide clear instances of the rep talking over the homeowner. Overlaps are minimal and conversational. Frequency appears rare to none. Good. So, yeah. Now, I can tell you I am terrible, and I have to pause myself. In fact, actually on phone calls, when I'm on the call, I'll mute myself, and then I like the awkward pause. Until there's like 3 seconds of air. I don't say a word.
Whoever talks first loses. Yeah. That's the game.
It's so true. But everybody has a feeling. I think it's like I don't remember where this came from, but for some reason, when people hear silence, they like purposefully just like, especially people that like to hear themselves talk. They'll throw a word in there just to continue on.
Well, the silence allows for that internal conversation to fill the gaps, right? So their head is reeling in the silence. They're thinking of all these different things and the internal conversation is continuing while there's silence in the dialogue. And I think the most of the truth comes out after that silence, whether it's 3 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever it may be. My wife hates it, right? Because I live in the uncomfortable silence as well. I am totally fine breaking hard news and shutting the fuck up, right? Or saying something that needs to be said and then not following it up with anything. It's like, no, silence. Until you say something. What do you got? What do you got back for me? I said no, right? I do it with my kids all the time too. Yeah, and just wait, just count it out. And then how they really feel usually happens shortly thereafter, that silence.
You know,
we have a quiet game. You want to have a quiet game? We just stare at each other.
Full circle on this, though. It's the law of consistency, right? The law of consistency states that people feel a strong need to be consistent with their previous actions, statements, commitments. It's sort of the DNA. I'm reading straight from the actual book right here, but the psychology of persuasion, influence, right? And I don't think people are truly liars, right? We say it that way, buyers are liars, but the easy thing to say, here's a good objection for you. Thanks for all the information, Ryan. I appreciate you coming out this evening. We just have to think about it. What did I just
Yeah,
say?
and I would respond with, I'm glad you got all the information you feel like you need. Is there anything that I could give you in the meantime that would help you and your wife or your spouse or your partner come up with a better educated decision?
No, this
Get
is a
some more
lot of
information,
information.
and then
We just need to think about it.
oh no, is that you or me? That's you. That's not me.
Yeah, we just need to think about it. It's a lot of information. I appreciate all of it. This is more information than I've gotten from anyone else. So thank you for that. You guys seem to have a very thorough process and a lot of detail here. I can appreciate and respect that. It's there's a lot going on too. What we were trying to do here, I don't think it's a simple project. So yeah, it's something we'll talk about it. And yeah, I'll get back to you. I got to think about it though.
So that detail I gave you, does that align with your vision for the project, or is there anything that back at the office I could be working on?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. This is exactly what we were hoping for.
Price point, scope of work, quality materials, everything's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, in fact, I
Okay,
mean,
then what's there to discuss? Could I be a third party, Switzerland in that conversation, and we can just kind of talk through it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I normally like to kind of sit down and, really just based in all of this information, I'll be brined in all of it by the time you get back to me, to where the writing will be on the wall. But right now it's just not. I don't make decisions like this quick. I need to think about it overnight.
Okay. I totally understand that. Big decision, a lot of money. I'm glad everything we provided for you today aligns with your goals and the quality of work, and we align with your budget. Internally to me, this sounds a lot like Becky, that is your neighbor, where we just finished their project. And it was a very similar scope of work, very similar kind of conversation we're having right now, where she just needed some time. She needed to go home. She needed to sit down, sleep on it. And you know what? Becky came back with XYZ questions. And those are the most common questions that happen. And are you okay if I share that information with you, just to maybe give you a little bit more information about the questions that Becky had that might help you make this decision?
Yeah, I mean, we're running to the end of our meeting here. I've got a hard stop. Is that something you can email to me?
Go die. That's what I would say at that point.
Let me tell you why I like this one. And this is probably one of the hardest ones for people to interpret, because the customer's genuinely trying to be respectful, but the just think about it comment is really, get the hell out of my house. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's a nice 100%. Way of saying, dude, I can't make this decision. And I'm not going to give you a yes or a no because I don't have the balls to. So instead of doing that, I'm going to say the nice thing is I'm going to think about it. And you did what I would ask every salesperson to do, a pie sell. Mm-hmm. Narrow it down. Did we talk to you about the products? Do all the products that we've discussed today make sense? Is this what you were hoping for before we got here? Yes. Does the timing make sense?
And double down.
Yeah. Timing makes sense. Yeah. Is you and I make a great partnership, I think. We worked well together. Is there any reason you wouldn't hire Riverview? You haven't seen a bad review from us, have you? Okay. You're just narrowing it all down. So the only last thing I can think of that really, is holding us from moving forward is price. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, price aligned, apparently. So then I want the social proof. Well, do you need to hear it from Becky, your neighbor, who just did this similar job? The person that referred you, you want to hear her objections?
That's it.
I mean, some people aren't going to be pleased. And the one thing I didn't do there was bring transparency to where I could have broke the ice and asked you a question. Hey, can I be completely honest with you, Nate?
Ooh.
Right? And I could just hit him between the eyes. Most homeowners that don't move forward right now, when they feel comfortable with the price, the scope, the vision of the project, typically never move forward with us. Bam, so if you want to cut ties right now, that's totally fine. But if you want to move forward, usually it's at this point.
Yeah, normally when we hear people say that they have to think about it, it's not because of a timing issue or of materials, or it's to be honest with you, when they say they have to think about it, they literally aren't going to think about anything. We've talked about to think about. If you truly mean that you have to think about it, it's because I didn't provide you enough information today. What did I not provide you? that you're going to, is there something that I could put you into, like if you really do think you're going to think about this, where do you go next to think about it? Do you have a small cave that you go into? Do you have an interweb that's like connected to the black market that you can look at things? No, that's not what they're doing. When they say that, it's an objection that says that they need to think more about the money because they don't want to say yes to the money. Your scenario, though, what you spun into was the social proofing is an awesome way to do that, because now you're carrying them through a tough decision with an example of an exact scenario where you carried somebody else through a tough decision. Hey, look, perfect scenario, right? So buyers aren't liars. They've used these laws of consistency, these ways to get us to just stop putting the pressure on them to help them, because we've turned it up so hot that like they don't know how to back. They're in a corner, and the only way to get out of that corner is to say something like, "We're going to think about it."
Yeah,
I need to get three quotes.
And the best way to mitigate that objection too is at the start. Like at basically taking that. I train our team every time we're speaking to a prospect, a client, a lead, whoever we want to call them. We're putting ammunition in their gun, or we're taking ammunition out of their gun. Right. So if we're not addressing the things that they might have to think about, and we're not asking explicitly for transparency on those things that they might want to think about way before we get down to pen to paper, that objection is probably going to happen. Right. But if we take that off the table up front, like, what are the things that are important to you? What are the things that you're going to have to think about to make this decision before we even talk about the scope of work, our process, anything else? And then that really actually caters. And this is on our pre-qual conversation with our CSR. I get their pain points. And then in my presentation to them, I am addressing how our process solves their problem in the sales process. That way, at the end of that, it's like they don't have these objections. It's not valid. And if they do go back to that objection, I have clear evidence that we have addressed that. So what's the issue?
What would make today's meeting a perfect scenario for us to be able to engage moving forward with one another and get their perspective before you even start the meeting? Well, I mean, and if they ask about products and price and timeline and cool. All right. So if we're able to make all of that happen today, would there be any reason for you to not want to hire us? No. Okay, perfect. So when I pop the question here in 30 minutes, then there's something else. Maybe it's my loan or.
Well, it's not dancing around the reason why we're here, right? I'm a for-profit company that offers this service. You reached out to me because you want this service. Yeah. Therefore, what's standing between you and I doing this together, right? Like,
so my real question now: are buyers liars, or are we
facilitators of truth
for facilitating this engagement with too many outcomes, confusing them?
So that's the second part of this topic of contractors overpromising, right? Yeah. It's the typical, you put on the tap shoes, you do a performance, you promise the world, and then reality sets in and you missed all of the parts of the process that are impactful, right? You just told them what they wanted to hear. You bought into their lie. Therefore, you lied as well to get the contract signed. And that's the worst type of sale. The worst type of sale is the one where the clients have the wool pull over their eyes. And then when they get into the construction, they freak the fuck out because they're like, I didn't know you had to demo the whole deck to replace the deck boards. That's, you know what I mean? Like it sounds silly, but like shit like that happens all the time. Like we had one where we literally ripped the roof off a second story. And this was earlier in my sales experience. And I go through utilities, like we're doing a new HVAC system, we're doing a main service panel upgrade, all this stuff. And in my head, I'm like, well, it's implied we're shutting down your HVAC, right? It's implied you're not going to have power for a day. Well, they work from home, right? I didn't, and that was a huge point of contention that I got pulled back into the project to kind of grovel a little bit. Like, so sorry I didn't explain that way. I thought like by me telling you these things are going to happen, but I should have said, explicitly, this is what we need from you to perform our scope of work because it's a partnership here. Yeah. Everyone has to concede a little bit. You're going to have to get an Airbnb for a week, a night, whatever, while we do this phase of construction because you're not going to have heating. You're not going to have cooling. You're not going to have power. You're not going to have hot water. Like this is going to be non-livable conditions for you. And those things happen.
Yeah. Clarity of scope's funny. We talk about, Now,
interpretation of scope. I would
well,
say
that's kind of where I'm walking
interpretation.
you into. Like, as simple as a deck part of the interpretation of the scope is vague, and wording is very, very, like, that's one of the other things I like about Sierra.
It's
We just
subjective.
identified a way today to use our Sierra recordings to export out what was heard and interpreted as the scope to be able to use for our pre-production meetings, which I'm really excited to see how that improves our overall understanding for what we're going to be doing. But one of the things an older contractor taught me a long time ago when writing an agreement is to think about it from this perspective. What is the contractor going to do, and what are they not going to do? What is the homeowner going to do? What is the homeowner not going to do? What am I responsible for? What am I not responsible for? What are you responsible for? What are you not? And if you thought about that in the scope, the contract doesn't have to have a bunch of stuff in it, because the scope will be the contract or the agreement. And the scope is going to say, Riverview Decks is going to be responsible for removal and demolition, removal, and disposal of a 320 square foot deck consisting of the framing, decking, railing, and ledger connection, and footing, and concrete that's in the footing. And you see what I'm saying? Like, and as you're talking out loud, writing this, you go, wait a minute, Mary, there's like probably a dump truck full of debris underneath your deck that looks like junk. It looks like stuff that you were at one point in time going to haul off to the dump yard. What do you plan to do with that? Oh, can you guys take that? I'm glad I asked, because she was assuming we were going to put it in our dumpster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's 2 dump truck loads. So yeah, no, we can certainly do that. Unfortunately, that's not what I have calculated in the cost of things. So I'll need 2 additional dump loads to do so. So I'll write that in here now. And also, Riverview Decks is to be responsible for removal and disposal of all of debris underneath, and in clear specificity. Like, if we're taking furniture off of a deck, this is no joke. It has to be called out in the actual scope. Riverview Decks to be responsible for removing all furniture off of deck and locating to a safe space during production process, and then repositioning all of that furniture back on completed work. If it's not on there, it's even this clear. If anything on that deck appears to be of value more than like a couple of $100s, I want a waiver signed, because now I'm touching something that I don't want to replace if it's broken in the process.
Yeah.
So,
no, I think that's a great point so language for us, especially on our large projects, is subjective. Once again, there's the 4 conversations that are being had. And words alone, especially niche jargon that a homeowner might not understand or something like it really needs to be 5th grade reading level for all transactions. That's first and foremost. And then second, these are my toys. These are not my toys. Right? Like, in the 5th grade spirit, we don't touch these toys. Those are your toys. You take care of your toys. Like, we're not moving your china cabinet. We're not taking your art off the wall. In some cases, we've had wall art that's more expensive than the kitchen remodel we're doing. Like, I am not touching that picture, right? Like, not my pig, not my farm. That's your toy. And so I 100% agree. Now, it's just to what extent? Right. I've found the more information we put out there, the more thorough things are, oftentimes leads to more confusion. To where I basically put in the proposal, any scope of work that is not explicitly listed out in these cost codes and categories is not happening, like blanket. Right. So, and I tell that in the contract signing, do you see furniture removal? No. Therefore, we are not removing your furniture. Right? Do you see wall art protection? No. Therefore, we are not protecting your wall art. That is on you. And it makes it very blanketed. And it does, sometimes it has extended the decision-making process, because there is truthfully some things to think about when we deliver that proposal. It's a 21-page scope of work, $1.1 million contract. Sometimes their attorneys have to review it. Sometimes they do need to they just need 2 days to decipher it and like really read through every line item and cross it out. It's like a small fucking book. which sucks a
Hemingway.
lot of times.
HemingwayApp.com.
What?
Hemingway.
Hemingway
The
what?
Hemingway.
Yeah, the author?
No. Hemingway app is a Hemingway editor. You can put your copy or you could literally, I can copy the entire Zero transcript and monumental conversation scope, throw it into Hemingway app and have it dumb it down to third grade legible knowledge.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, then it's you can't argue that. Like, hey, I it's the grammar in this is so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it really does need to be like the filter we use on all of our stuff is the who, what, where, how many, framework. That's our QA QC framework for operations, reviewing contracts and scopes of work. That's our designers framework when they're doing the set of CDs. That's our salesperson and estimators framework when they're crafting the scope of work. Everyone is aligned on that framework. And same thing with the homeowners. Like that's how we break it down. And like how we dictate everything is like who's doing it, where's it going, how's it going to happen, how many of these are going in, like it needs to be like that. And I truthfully think the people of the world who can take a comprehensive solution or a very exhaustive process and make it simple are some of the most intelligent people out there. It's very easy for me to just verbally ramble and sound eloquent and have all these big words and all these things about this process. But it's not very intelligent, right? It's more showmanship, if anything. Whereas if I can say the same thing and get the same output, but at a comprehension that anyone could look at this or read this or listen to this and understand, that's intellectualism, right? Like that is someone very smart. Because big words are stupid if no one knows what they mean. You know what I mean?
What's that? Big words stupid? Yeah.
Big words are stupid if no one knows what they mean or the context it's used. Like most of the people I find that use big vocabularies it's for their. Oh,
it's an ego. I've got to make sure you're. I just one upped you with my word, man. Come on.
Yeah, I used to do that in fourth grade when I found out there was a thesaurus. Like I put it in like this is what I want to say. What word makes it sound way cooler? Right? Like it's that, but adult level, and it's actually like I can't stand that. And I've been caught in that too, especially probably 5-6 years ago when I was learning so much. I was just a sponge to everything coming into me that I wanted to share those things with other people. And I would do it in a way that obviously I grasped the concept that I was learning, but I wasn't intelligent enough to reproduce that content in a way that they could understand it. And I was doing it in like self-performing ways. It was just showmanship. Like, look how smart I am, which is, everyone has ego. Everyone gets through it at some point.
So are buyers really liars then? After we've talked about all this, I'm starting to think a little differently now because we're talking about dumbing ourselves down to a third grade legible process. We're talking about coming in there with a process that's straight line so they don't get too confused. We're talking about, handling objections in ways that people can understand. Like we're just there to help them make a good decision. And really what I guess I'm talking out loud through now is that with a thought like that, if we do think like that, if we assume that that's the process or that people do feel pressured, then that only leads to believe that one person's trying to get one up on the other. And I tell my sales guy this, I tell our whole staff, we talk about this a lot. And then of course, clients are the same. I let them know like, hey, I'm not here to get one up on you. I don't think that's a good partnership to have. You need to feel comfortable about the decisions you're about to make. And I want it to be a partnership, a mutually beneficial scenario where you win, we win, and we can all shake each other's hands at the end of this. And it's a great experience. Because if that's not the case, I can't make it a good experience. Neither one of us is going to force it into being a good experience. And it's going to be a tough conversation every time there's something that doesn't go the way we want it to. So before we even move into these, right, how do we partner mutually and beneficially together as a team to execute on the scope that you need?
It's the setting the table, I think I do agree. Buyers, we say buyers are liars, but buyers are ignorant, and they lie through omission, and it's because they don't know. Like they're not omitting things. I will say most of the time. Yeah, they're not omitting things maliciously in a way to like gain for them and save money and hurt us and put us in a corner. It's just because they just don't know.
Some are technically doing that out of just spite because
that's what I mean. Some do that.
Yeah.
Some do that. And I've found certain ethnic groups do that more than others, ironically. and those are the ones where not the hard sales approach comes out, but the very transparent sales approach comes out, especially that contract signing. Like, I am not doing shit except for what is written here. You understand me, damn it. Like, you are not going to get one over on me. We had a job that we bid out, lower GP. It was an ADU and 2 bathrooms. We were at like 30% gross profit, which is our red siren alert gross profit margin. We need to be at blended 40%. And this job was like just on the borderline revenue wise. And this homeowner whittled us down. And every week when I was looking at the financial reports on the job, I was just gut shot. And I ended up firing a project manager because of it, because he's in charge of the budget. We are at a 8% gross profit margin on this job. We actively lost with operating costs, net profit non-existent, negative.
Job costing, was operating costs. Was this
slippage, dude? It was the homeowner basically pushing our project manager and superintendent on site to do a bunch of free stuff that was opened the company up to a ton of risk.
I would classify that as a poor managed project manager who didn't ask for the change.
Gross negligence. Yeah. Gross negligence. Like, we moved a whole Tesla Powerwall system for free. Like the rough like the electrical, like everything, the Tesla. I'm like, we should have never even freaking touched that, because now we just bought that whole battery backup system. Like if one thing goes wrong, we're shelling out 40-50K to replace this Tesla Powerwall. It's like, no, what are we doing? Like, no.
So
we did that. We tore off
them for free, or
and then like we had an issue with the solid surface guy, like cut a hole for the drop ear elbows, and it was porcelain. And a lot of times the porcelain, you have to actually install the slab, then do the cutouts because it's such a fragile material. You can't just like fab it off site and then bring it on. So they were cutting on site, and they plugged our drop ear elbow with the radius of their cutout. And so instead of calling back the solid surface, which like makes the most common sense, call them back and say, hey, you got to tear this slab out and we got to replace this drop ear elbow. They tore off the exterior wall, disturbed the existing siding, the waterproofing, everything, and replumbed it from outside in, and at our cost. And I was like, this isn't our problem. This isn't our mistake. But what do you like? So like things like that just dramatically increased our costs on the project. And it was just mismanaged or poorly managed, to where like, that was just one of many instances that led to that termination. But things like that to where, and then the homeowner on top of that, just getting free stuff, asking for free stuff, buying, like he went out and bought, we already procured all the slabs and tile and all this stuff. He went and canceled some of our orders with our vendors, and caused delays that way. And then when we tried to charge him for it, refused to pay, like stuff like that. It's like, what are you doing? So we've had some crazy stuff like that happen. But it's unfortunately a stupid tax that I'm sure everyone will pay at one time in one form or another.
You have to.
And, now we know.
Some people learn from them, some don't. Some people keep processing in that way, and they still find a way to make money and catch a lick on some. But if you're trying to build something that's got a great reputation, that people want to work with and be internally part of, you can't. Like, it screws up the morale. It screws up the company vibe, the culture. It changes the way that money gets. I mean, all the way down to biblically, in my opinion, if you're not a good steward of the resources and the way you're operating, you're just winging it. That's not a business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very true. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of the same problems that arise in adjacent situations to where at sometimes it's the same exact problem behind the curtain, but at face value, you can't sometimes extrapolate that it's the same problem, and those are the things that where that, and truthfully, when it comes down to business, those decisions are what really separate the successful businesses and the not so successful business owners. Be able to identify those potential problems and be like, this smells a lot like shit sandwich, and I've eaten a lot of shit sandwich. Like we should probably go this way, and wisdom would tell you don't make the same mistake twice. But oftentimes the same mistake can happen twice because it's dressed up in a prettier skirt. You know what I mean? Like it's a completely different environment, but it's the same core issue that's going to happen. Which those are the things, I mean, as I'm sure you know. Yeah, I mean, someone sprayed, perfume on a shit sandwich and it smelled a little bit better than last time, but the end result was the same end result. All right, brother. Well, let's button this thing up. I think that was good. That was a more sales oriented.
I like it
right here. I like that. That was good. Any leading thoughts for the viewers?
Well, first and foremost, if you don't have a process to think through about how you're executing your sales environment, that should be the primary thing to think through, is just make sure you have a process. I mean, I thought I had a process. My background's been in sales my entire life, and I got clean smack in the face after spending $55,000 with Alex Hormozy to realize I don't have a good, clean sales process. Now I do. Mm-hmm. I've got a fire sales process, one that's baller, that's training, that's coaching, that's giving very, very good feedback and examples, but have a good sales process. Because, I mean, knowing more about what's going on in homes when you're not there because you can't ride along with everybody constantly, it's not a matter of like punishing your people. It's a matter of teaching them and giving them the resources so that they can succeed and win big, because that's what we're all about. They're here to make money with you. Teach them how to do better, right? I'm a big fan of performance improvement plans. I think they're great.
No, 100%.
Keep going.
And being clear.
That means I value.
It's not reprimanding either. Yeah. Being clear is being fair, is being kind. If we're not clear with the expectations and how we're going to win, what does winning look like? No one's ever going to win. And that brings me to my closing thought is, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. Any plan is better than no plan. And every plan you create is going to get adjusted. I think of it as, I've been referring to our company as an NFL team, right? And how we run it. Like, we're not a family. This is not a democracy here, or anything like this is. I'd like to say Al Davis, but he's ran that shit into the ground. I can't say Jerry Jones either. He's running his shit in the ground for the past 20 years. But, I am an NFL GM and owner, and I have a salary cap. We have deliverables. We have a brand, and these are the decisions we're making. Here's our playbook. And just because I script out the first 20 plays of the game doesn't mean I might throw a wrinkle here, a wrinkle there, and the plan's going to change. Every plan's going to change. That means you're responsive, you're reactive. It's good. But if you don't have a plan to start, you're going to immediately be set up to fail, really. So, good pod. I like it.
Yes, sir. Let's get this money.
See you next week. Let's do it. Have a good rest of your week, man.